Hello, my name is Emma and I'm 49 years old. A few months ago, my marriage of over 20 years came to an end and it ended horribly. I finally feel good enough to talk about it, and I thought I'd come on here and share my story with whoever is willing to listen. I met my now ex-husband David through a work event when I was around 25. We found each other in the crowd and ended up talking so much that we decided to meet again the next day. We continued to meet each other for meals or movies, and we quickly realized that we had developed deep feelings for each other. We dated for 5 years before we finally got married. Our marriage initially was something straight out of a movie. We were very in love and we were doing great in our careers. We were constantly upgrading houses and living very comfortably. Now, I wanted to have kids when we were finally in a great place financially and career-wise, but David was very much against the idea. I tried my best to convince him to have children or even just a child, but he was very adamant about his opinion. Eventually, after trying for years to convince him, I gave up and decided to just enjoy our life. Nothing much happened after that, but I was content, and that was all that mattered. I noticed a change in our relationship around 3 years ago. By this point, we had been married for around 15 years, and we were comfortable with each other. We weren't as romantic as we were at the start of our relationship, but we were still happy. At least I thought we were. David suddenly began acting distant. I tried my best to get him to talk to me about what he was going through, but David insisted that nothing was bothering him. Around the same time, he told me that his work had told him that he would be required to travel a lot more because he was up for a promotion. He seemed happy about it, so I never questioned it, and instead remained happy for him. David then began to travel a lot more. He was gone for 2 to 3 weeks a month, and although I wasn't happy with how long he was gone, I did my best to keep those thoughts to myself. Instead, I did my best to make sure that we were still spending time together when David was home. I planned dates and activities for us to do, and David seemed really happy with it. I felt like whatever was bothering David had finally vanished, and I was glad about it. Although it was killing me to know what it was, I let it go because I didn't want to bring up something that he'd let go of. This is how it was for the next few years, and we were still happy. When David's 50th birthday was approaching, I was ecstatic. I began planning the celebration for him almost 5 months before his birthday, and David knew just how excited I was for him. And then, one day, while we were spending a weekend in, he looked at me sheepishly. "Sweetie, I have some bad news." "No. You can't go traveling again. Your birthday is in 12 days. "I know, but duty calls, you know." "But you promised. You're turning 50, David. I want you to celebrate it with everyone you love around you." "I want that too, darling, but what can I do?" "Is there no one else who can do your job for you? I mean, you've been traveling extensively for so long. I don't think it'll be an issue for your company to find someone else to travel instead of you." "No one else is free. I'm the only one who can travel." "What if you were preoccupied with something else, or if you were sick? What would your company have done?" "Don't upset me, darling." "How can I not be upset? You've been so wrapped up with your work these last 2 years, and I haven't said a word about it. Now, when it's time to celebrate your life, also you're expected to work. How is that fair? I want you to have a break and for you to just enjoy spending time with your family and friends instead of working like crazy. I'll tell you what, I'll do my best to wrap up the business in 7 days, and I'll be back in time for my birthday celebration. Does that make you feel any better? It's not about making me feel better, David. I want you to not focus on your work for a second and just enjoy your life outside of it, you know? Come here. I promise when I get back, there will be no work talk. It'll only be us having a good time. Does that sound good? Fine. But are you absolutely sure you have to go on this trip? Unfortunately, I have to go. But why don't you take this free time to work on my present? I know you're planning something, and I'm sure you'll appreciate me being away. Oh, yeah, fine then. But you better be back in a week, or so help me. I will be so upset with you. I wouldn't be able to turn 50 knowing you're upset with me, so don't worry, I'll be back in a week. I was more upset than I let on, but at the same time, I realized that David had a point about working on his present. I had been so caught up planning his birthday that getting him his present almost slipped my mind. I said almost because I purchased his presents, but there was one thing I still had to do. I planned on making a video of David's life, like a tribute or appreciation video of him. I planned to use all the pictures and videos I could find of his and put it all together into a video with his favorite song of all time playing in the background. After David left the next day, I began to work on the video. I did my best to juggle my actual work, planning the party, making the video over the rest of the week. On the 5th day after David left, he texted me to tell me that he'd be coming home late in the afternoon the next day. I was happy that he was coming home earlier, but I was also panicking because I wasn't entirely done with his video. I was running short of a few childhood pictures of him, so I decided to go through his iPad because I knew he had them saved to his cloud. As I was scrolling through the albums, I happened to come across a hidden album that was password protected. I was beyond curious about what he could have that was so private, so I tried the password that I knew he used for all his devices, and it worked. Then I was greeted with tons of pictures of a young woman. There were normal pictures of her doing random things like petting a dog or mixing a drink at a bar. And then there was a video. The video was of her giving birth, and David was standing next to her. He was the one filming and holding her hand. There was nothing explicit. It was only her face. But I immediately knew it was David from his voice and the fact that the woman was yelling out David's name. Even though I didn't want to believe it, I immediately knew that David was cheating on me. Suddenly, I became aware of all his little lies, and I couldn't bear it. I quickly drove over to my best friend, Sarah's home, and when she opened the door and saw me, she panicked. "Hey! Oh my God! What happened? Come in! I don't know what to think anymore. What do you mean? Why don't I get you some water so you can calm down, huh? I don't want water right now. David is cheating on me." "What? What do I do? I want to confront him, but at the same time, I never want to see his disgusting face again." "Hold on. How did you find out that he was cheating?" "You know how I was planning on making a video essay of his life for his birthday?" "Yeah. I was on his iPad looking for photos of him from when he was a child because he had them on his cloud and I couldn't ask him for his phone, so that was how I planned to get the pictures. Anyway, I found a file that was password protected and he used the same password he used for his phone, like the idiot he is. I found a video of him at a hospital with another woman while she was giving birth." "What? Oh my God. Wait, are you sure it was him? I know this is a dumb question, but I can't even begin to imagine that David was capable of cheating. I'm sure it was him. The girl kept calling him by name and telling him that she was so lucky that he was by her side. You have no idea how disgusted I was watching that. I didn't expect this from him either. All those business trips he took. Were they just pathetic excuses for him to cheat on me? How much of an idiot was I? That I didn't see any of this happening right under my nose. I don't know what to do. Hey, first of all, you need to calm down. You were not stupid for not seeing this happening under your nose. Why would you look for something when he had never given you a reason to look for it in the first place? We have no idea why he cheated, but what we can do is make him feel sorry for doing that to you. What are you saying? I should take revenge on him? Yeah. You have all the evidence you need. You should expose him on his birthday, no less. I don't think it would be appropriate to show everyone a video of another woman giving birth. I doubt that's the only proof of his affair. If he was sloppy enough to lock a folder with the same password as his phone, I'm sure there are tons more evidence in his chats. Besides, what are the chances that this girl knows that he's married? You think I should reach out to her? Do it if you feel like she doesn't know about you. If she knows about you, then telling her could ruin your chance at revenge. You're right. I'm going to make David regret ruining our marriage like this. That's my girl. You can stay here if you want. Tell David that I'm going through something and you're staying here with me as emotional support, or that I'm helping you with his present. Whatever you need to make him not suspect anything. All right. Thank you so much for having my back like this. Of course. If I don't have your back like this, am I really your best friend? I stayed the night with Sarah, who comforted me as much as she could. I somehow managed to fall asleep that night, and the next morning I rushed back home so I could get as much information as I could from David's iPad. I scoured through all the apps on the iPhone and found a few text messages between David and this woman, whose name was Allison. I managed to find her social media and I took screenshots of everything. I sent myself the video as well. Forget a tribute video. I was going to make an expose on David. After I found what I wanted to find, I quickly packed up a few of my things and debated which excuse would work best to tell David. I decided to tell him that I had to complete his birthday present because that worked better with him coming home earlier than I expected. When David came home, I felt my heart drop to my stomach. I wanted to throw up, but I tried my best to keep a neutral face on. I knew that I could not let David find out about what I knew. I had to act my best. I was still in our bedroom when he came back home, so he yelled out for me and I went downstairs to greet him as I would have normally. "Emma, I'm home." "Welcome home, darling." "Oh, the trip was so tiring." "And wait, why are your bags packed?" "Well, I'm still not done working on your birthday present and I need some privacy to work on it." "But you asked me to come earlier so we could spend time together." "I know, but I need to finish this present. I only have a few days and this is some tedious work." "Are you okay? You seem a little off. Are you not happy that I came back a day early?" "No, I'm completely fine. I'm just panicking about how incomplete my present is." "Darling, you know I'll love anything that you give me. You don't have to try so hard. Where are you going anyway, and how long are you going for?" "I'm going to Allison's. She's going to help me complete it, but don't worry. She'll let me take full credit. I'll be there till your birthday." "I hope that's not a problem." "No, that's great. Say, since you're going out, is it okay if I invite some of my friends over?" "Sure. What problem would I have with that?" I know, but I just figured I'd ask you first. It's been a while since I met them, so I figured I could have a boys' night. Of course. Go for it. I will be back sometimes, though, because I might need some extra things. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, okay. Do you want to go out and grab some lunch, though? Come on, I'm hungry. And I just got done driving for like 3 hours. Fine. I'm not hungry, but we'll go out. My heart almost jumped out of my chest when David figured that something was wrong with me. But of course, he didn't care enough to follow up on that, and for once, I was grateful about it. We went out to grab some food, and my stomach was a mess. I didn't know if it was the smell of the food or because I couldn't even begin to wrap my head around how cool David was behaving when he was playing with my life and our relationship. Eventually, David dropped me off at Sarah's place and I broke down immediately. Sarah comforted me again, and then we got to planning what we would do. We decided to try and find out as much as we could about Allison, and eventually, after going through David's messages with her, we realized that she most definitely did not know that David was a married man. He kept referring to me as his ex-wife when he was telling her how happy he was that they had a child. It was a punch to my gut, but I knew that I had to let Allison know the truth. I reached out to Allison from my Instagram account and let her know everything. She was shocked, and initially she didn't believe me, but she saw that my account still had pictures of David, the most recent one being from a week ago, so she knew that I wasn't lying. I asked her if we could meet up to talk about this, and she agreed immediately. After looking through all the information I could find of her, I knew that she lived in our city, so I was sure she would want to meet up. We decided to meet the next day, and I happened to arrive earlier. I was lost in my head, but I was snapped back by reality when Allison called out my name. Emma! Yeah, that's me. Hi, Allison. Hello. I'm so sorry about this whole thing. Hey, calm down. I'm not upset with you. You were tricked by David. Why don't you order some coffee and then we can get into it? I really don't feel like having coffee right now, but thanks for not being upset with me. I swear if I'd even had a hint that David was a married man, I would never have been with him or had his child. It's okay. You were a victim of David's manipulation just as much as I was. If you don't mind, could you tell me how you and David met? I work at a bar that's about 25 minutes away from here. David started coming in there almost every day around 3 years ago, and we got to talking. What did he tell you about himself? He told me that he worked for a big company and that he was a recent divorcee. I never thought that he was lying. I'm so sorry. In hindsight, I should have considered that he never had social media or that he was very careful about telling anyone about me as a red flag. Why did you not listen? Well, when I met David, I had just gotten out of a toxic relationship, and David was the first man that actually understood me. He made me feel good about myself, and I guess I ignored all the warning signs because I loved him too much. Oh, I get that. David charmed me when I first met him, and I swore that no man would ever understand me the way that he did. There's just one last thing I wanted to ask you. Did you two plan on having a child together? Not really. I got pregnant accidentally, and David convinced me to continue the pregnancy, even though I didn't want to. I mean, right now, regardless of what David has done, I still love my child with all my heart, and I don't regret giving birth to him. Nothing will ever change that, but I will make sure that I get full custody of my child. That's good to hear. I don't want anything bad to happen to that child. I'm upset that David convinced you to continue your pregnancy when he's been telling me for years that he hated children and never wanted to have any. What? He told me that he'd always wanted children and that his ex-wife, or, well, you, hated children, so you refused to have any. Oh, wow. The nerve of that man. Look, I'm throwing him a huge birthday party this weekend because he's turning 50. I was wondering if you would like to come and if I could maybe show the video of your birth as proof along with your text messages. Absolutely. I would love to see his face when he finds out that he's been caught. If you have any more evidence of your relationship, could you please send them to me? I'll make a whole montage for him with just the evidence to make it even worse for him. Of course, I'll do anything I can to help you out. I was so glad that Allison was on board with my plan. I mean, I had other ways to expose him too, but I didn't want there to be any way for David to refute the evidence. Allison sent me screenshots of a lot of their conversations, and some of them were very mean to me because David talked about how ugly I was and how I was so selfish. It hurt me so much. But I knew that I was ultimately going to win against David. When it came time for his birthday, I made my way over to our place and did my best to act like everything was fine. I greeted David and wished him with as much enthusiasm as I could, which technically wasn't a lot. Thankfully, he was too wrapped up with our families to notice my odd behavior. When it finally came time to give David his presents, I decided to go first. I told everyone that I'd been working on David's gift for a long time and that it was an appreciation video for him. I then told everyone that I had also invited someone that I was sure David would be happy to see. David looked confused, but when he saw Allison walk into the room with her son in her arms, his eyes went wide. Everyone looked at Allison and then at me and David in confusion. I let the video play and explained everything that happened. I told everyone about how David had manipulated Allison and lied to me for years. How he technically forced Allison to have a child while he repeatedly told me that he hated children and never wanted them. During my entire explanation of events, David had his head in his hands because he was ashamed that his truth had come to light. The first person to react to this whole thing was my dad. He got up and grabbed David by his shirt and asked him why he did this to me. David remained silent and looked away. After that, everyone, David's parents, his siblings, my siblings, together began hounding him with questions, but David kept his mouth shut. When we realized this was going nowhere, we decided to leave. I didn't want to talk to anyone after that, because the reality of it all came crashing down on me. I went to stay with Sarah again, and David's family, along with mine, offered me all their support. My head was a mess that day. I have no idea how I got through that night. The next morning, David called, and I reluctantly picked up the phone. Hello, David? How long did you know? Not very long, but finding out now was better than never. How did you plan to raise a child while still being with me? That was a problem I was planning on solving later on. Why did you have to meddle like that? Do you realize how embarrassing that was for me? Oh, really? What about how embarrassed I was? Do you know how humiliating it was to find out that you were cheating on me and had a whole family outside of me? Here we go again. You always have to make everything about yourself, don't you? How is this me making things about myself? You were the one that threw our relationship for another woman. What was it that you wanted? A child? I was open to it, but you were the one that was against the idea of having children. So tell me, what happened? God, if you have to know everything, last thing I wanted was to raise a child with you. What? You're always so focused on yourself, and you rarely give time to me. When? When have I ever done that? I've been the one planning our dates and vacations since the start of our relationship. I'm the one that makes sure we're communicating properly when all you want to do is sweep all our issues under the rug. Don't blame your crappy behavior on me. And you refuse to accept your mistakes. Do you think I want my child growing up to be like you? Wow, you are a work of art, David. I'm glad we never had kids because this makes the separation so much easier and less painful. Whatever, Emma. I'm just glad that I'll be able to raise a child. Oh, hasn't Allison told you yet? Told me what? She's planning on getting full custody of her child, and she doesn't want you in the picture at all. What? I hope you find a way to make peace with what you've done. Are you serious? What did you say to her? I had her wrapped around my pinky finger. What did you do? I didn't do anything. Unlike you, Allison has morals, and she was very unhappy that you lied to her about our relationship status. She doesn't like cheaters, so she doesn't want you to be a part of her or her son's life. Wasn't it enough that you embarrassed me in front of my family and friends? Did you have to go after the only thing that made me happy? David, our relationship was the only thing that made me happy, yet you had no problem destroying it. I see no reason why I shouldn't have destroyed everything that you loved. You're a monster. I'm not a monster at all. Stop projecting. I did everything I could to make sure that we remained happy, yet you cheated on me. This is only a small lesson for you to learn from. I hope you're happy now. Please do not contact me, and if you need to, you can contact me through my lawyer. Bye. I hung up on David before he could say anything more. I couldn't understand how he thought that I was the reason for his new reality. At first, I wondered if I acted too much on my anger, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I didn't even do anything that bad to him. And the more I thought about how I didn't do anything too bad to him, the more I wanted to hurt him some more. I didn't think it was fair that I was stuck with all these feelings of betrayal and hurt while he got away with nothing. So I took it upon myself to email his company and let them know about David's infidelity. I checked with Allison, and apparently every time he spent time with her, he never went to work. That only made me think that he was taking leave off work to be with her, and I knew that he didn't have that many days that were paid leave. He must have been lying to his boss, and I was going to make sure he suffered for that. And I was right. He had apparently been telling his boss that his wife, that is me, had been suffering some health problems, and she needed to regularly take off so he could drive me to and from the hospital. His boss was a kind and compassionate man, which is why he did not ask for proof. I guess David's acting was so good that it never warranted any proof. Anyway, that promptly got David fired. Of course, David tried to contact me about it, but I blocked his number. He contacted my lawyer to tell me that he was going to sue me for defamation, but that was promptly thrown out the window because I had not said anything that was false, nor did I share proof that was not consented to by Allison. Since David lost his job, it became even easier for Allison to get full custody of her child. David barely managed to get visitation rights, and even that was under supervision. Allison told me that she planned to fight against his visitation rights again in a few years, and I was happy for her. As for my divorce with David, thankfully my lawyer was amazing, and he managed to get the divorce process faster than I expected. David tried his best to fight me on everything, but I was not going to let him take the majority of things. After being together for over 20 years, it gets hard to divide things, but I stood up for myself and I made sure I got a good portion of our assets. During the entire divorce process, I got a lot of support from both family and David's. After I exposed him to everyone, David's family disowned him and apologized profusely for David's behavior, of course. I told them that they had nothing to apologize for, but I was grateful for their support. By the end of the divorce, David was jobless and alone, something that made me very happy. After the divorce was finalized, I guess everything finally properly hit me and I spiraled into a deep depression. Thankfully, Sarah and my family were by my side and I managed to get through it. Allison and I don't keep in touch a lot, only because the memory of why we even know each other is a little too painful to bear, but I do know that she's in a much happier place. And her son is doing well. I don't know what's happening with David anymore, but I'm sure he's not doing so well, at least from what little reports his family have given me. It took me a few months to get back on my feet and start feeling like life was worth living again, but here I am. I know now the kind of strength I have, and I know that no matter what happens from here on, I can face anything life throws my way. Thank you for listening to my story.